All right. Well, it's another Texas Power Up, the first one of March, which basically means quarter one is kind of over, right? All the activities we do for this quarter, they fund our quarter two, quarter three, and quarter four results, which is great, you know. Um, so we'll start this morning on a topic. We've been talking about leads, listings, leverage, profit. We're going to continue the leads conversation on the open house lead gen lever. But before we get started on that and our awesome 4 panelists this morning that are joining us, let's go ahead and shout outs. Who's got shout outs for their peers, for their team, for either their staff, the agents? Who's got something that everyone should know about? Our values. Gary Keller always says our culture becomes that of greed unless we set the culture, right? And we reset the culture every single day, right? And greed doesn't mean like, something like terrible, like, oh my God, I just got to make more money. It's what's in it for me and how fast can I get there, right? And so, which, there's a part of us that is important. And yet, right, that's not the foundation of it. Jordan, good morning. Your hair looks great.
Good morning. I want to, I forget what you call it, fill buckets, highlights, whatever.
Yeah, all of it.
Valencia and Kelly on our team, they have joined the Brown Network, and they're like, there is not content on this. It's no good. And so they are like brainstorming ways to bring incredible content and drop place and make a huge presence for place in something that is lacking content. And I love how they come from contribution and look to add value everywhere they go and raise the standard.
Wow. Okay. Wow. We are really like making an impact over there. That's awesome. I love to hear that. Love to hear that. Awesome shout out. Jen, good morning.
Good morning. Too many levers. I just wanted to shout out Chelsea Angelotti on our team for grit. She had her very first closing yesterday, and she, it was a big one. I mean, it was 463,000. So I mean,
woo!
I promise in many years it took me to get there, right? And
yes.
She, even when things were going slower than she wanted, she just continues to do the activities and keep moving forward, even if she gets stalled for a minute, she dives back in and gets after it. So she's just doing great, and I'm super proud of her.
I love that. That's an awesome shout out. I'm so glad to see that. And our company is made up of seasoned agents, which is really great, right? That's why we got you guys on panel, right? And it's made up of newer agents. And Gary Keller always says the next top agent isn't even in the business yet, right? And there's room for all of us, and all of us make all of us really good. That's really great. I love that. And I remember, Jen, when I used to sell $130,000 homes. So it would take me 4 homes to make the same commission that she just got to make, which is amazing, which is awesome. I'm so happy. So happy. Excellent. Excellent. All right. I have one more shout out and then we'll get started. Unless somebody has something deep on their heart and they want to raise their hand. I'm going to give a shout out to Andrea on our team, who is going to be buying a new residence, and she's turning her current one into a rental property, right? Really living that wealth dream and that wealth value. She's been with the team 3.5 years. And gosh, what an amazing thing to be building wealth, turning that income into assets. And then also turning income into assets is Mary, our operations manager on our team. She is buying her first investment property. So she's coming up on a year anniversary coming soon. And I'm very happy to report that she is going to be buying an investment property, which is very cool. So I love that. Okay, let's get started. You guys don't have as many shout outs. I know you're saving them for next week, I'm sure. So I want to talk about open houses, not because you guys are like, oh my God, I need to get more buyers. Like, I'm very aware of the market that we're all in, but here's a couple things. I got the inspiration from one of our partners. Her name is Jacqueline Smith. If you've been on any of the place calls, you have probably attended a training of hers. She's amazing. Her team is fabulous. And she and her team refocused on open houses last month. So the month of February, short month, right? 10% shorter than all the other months. And these were their results from focusing on open houses. They had 110 open house registrations, 110. 9 of them were hot, 36 were nurtures, 29 were watches, right? If you add up hot, nurture, and watch, that's 74 potential deals for 2022 from her team's 1 month of focus on that lead gen lever. And the reason we're talking about lead gen levers is that's how we build a business. And the reason I want to talk about open houses is everyone says I'm better face to face. And we are, right? Like, I mean, you get the nuance of like how people are feeling better when you're face to face, right? Now, the purpose of this particular meeting is we want to sharpen our saws on open houses. I know all of you guys know what to do. I just want to make sure that our top agents remind us of what's working for them this year, not 5 years ago, this year, right? And then to, like, if you haven't done a lot of open houses in maybe the last 3 months, the winter season, this is a good opportunity to just dust off those cobwebs, right? And we've all been there and it's all good. So let's go ahead and get our panelists ready. I'm going to go ahead and spotlight them, and I want to introduce them for you just after I spotlight them, because I'm very excited about the people who raised their hand to be on this panel with us. Let me find you. There you are, Mr. Ryan. And then Ryan, while I'm finding my panelists, what time do you wake up? I was actually going to ask you too.
Jen's gonna make me look bad. I live like 2 minutes from the office in Bellingham, so I don't have to wake up super early. I'm usually up about 7 and I'm in the office about 8.
Okay, I love it. I love it. All right, here we go. Okay, so here's our panelists. So I just want to set up the conversation since I just talked about Ryan. Ryan is in Bellingham, Washington. Who has been to Bellingham? A few. Okay, cool, good. I see hands. So Ryan's in Bellingham, Washington. What time is it in Bellingham right now?
It is 6:39.
And boy, do we appreciate you waking up before your usual time, because you just told us you're a 7 o'clocker. So I appreciate you giving us your time this morning, Ryan. And Ryan, you have been with the company how long?
5 years.
5 years. 5
Yep.
years. Holy mac. Okay, I love it. Jen, you are in what area?
I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Dallas-Fort Worth. And you have been with the company how long?
I'm going into my second year, my second full year. I think.
Oh
Mhm.
man. Oh, I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
But
and
I'm
then
5 years in the business.
that was my next question, is if you were in the business prior to that. And then before that, were you an independent agent? Were you an assistant? Were you like on another team? What was kind of like your route to the company?
To Ben Kinney. So I was an individual agent, but I was dual career. So I was still in the restaurant industry
Okay.
and doing real estate,
Okay.
which was for myself personally, that was the blessing of COVID, is it forced me out.
Yeah.
Because I was never going to leave that security, I don't think, very willingly. And it really pushed me into the opportunity, which has been amazing.
You chose like two of the most like stressful things to do, like hospitality of any kind and real estate. Like, congratulations. Like, how to be stressed 101. Hugh Jen Smith. I love that. And Ryan, what did you do before real estate? Just so that everybody's clear and kind of understands where you're coming from as well.
Yeah, I was just still in college. I met Jillian my junior year of college.
Oh, that's
I love her.
beautiful.
So, yeah,
We've been talking about that a lot around here with some people. That's great. And so how did you join the company as like while you were in college, or?
Yeah, I was this is like, we had like 6 expansion teams at the time, so we didn't really have a lot of VAs. So they just got a bunch of college kids to work for free, and I was one of those college kids that would post stuff on the MLS and all that. And then so yeah, I was working on the team for like 3-4 months as like an unpaid intern, and then that summer was like the listing coordinator, because the listing coordinator quit right when like summer started, and then just started working with Ryan right after that and got licensed.
I love that. I love that. I remember those days where we didn't have staffing,
Yeah.
and we are so grateful that you filled those holes. That's awesome. I love it. I love that. That's awesome. And Jonathan, how long have you been with the company? What'd you do before? Kind of what's your story?
Yeah, so this May will be my end of my second year in the business. So last year was my first full year. Here I'm here in Austin, Texas. Prior to that, I worked in corporate America for the railroad out of Chicago for 5 years as like a operations manager. And then prior to that, I was a director of operations for a grocery store chain in Chicago. So about 10 years of experience before I got into real estate and worked on my MBA in Chicago. So definitely a different background, very structured corporate ladder, and then real estate's very different.
Well, and what I love is Jonathan was brand new to the city, right? So like a lot can happen in 2 years, a whole heck of a lot. Glad you're here. Chicago is way colder. Texas rocks. Joseph, tell us about you. How long have you been in the business? How long have you been with us, etc.?
Yeah, so I am coming up on my first full year now in April, I believe.
Okay.
I started launched last year in April, and just like Jen, I've been in the restaurant industry, hospitality industry as far as I can remember. And yeah, it's funny what you said, like how to be stressed 101, and it's like, you know, constant stress. So I think that's a good thing to be able to handle the stress and deal with it in a healthy way, and you know, just kind of get your head right. But yeah, it's been awesome so far. The team is incredible, and you know, getting to learn from everybody. You know, I think Jonathan Hand's one of the people that a lot of agents look up to. So it's, you know, it's really awesome to be on this panel, you know, alongside everybody else.
I love that. So this was a pretty hand-selected panel this morning, just to set the stage for you guys. All of these agents don't just have like open houses on their business plan and it looks good, right? We all have that, right? But they are closing deals from open houses, and I wanted kind of a good mix of it, right? Ryan's been here 5 years, right? Jen has been in the industry 5 years, but she has been with the company 2 years. Jonathan, brand new to a new city, almost 2 years in the business. And Joseph, seeing Joseph like sign three people this like in the last 2 months from open houses, and like solid people, like $500,000 people, not like 100,000 people like that I used to sell, right? And he's a newer agent. So I wanted you to have different perspectives, and yet we're all doing the same thing. So let's start with the first question, and whoever wants to start us off, go for it. Why do you actually do open houses? Why do you do open houses? And it's cool if you have a different answer from everybody else, or if you have the same one, it's fine. Just set the stage. Why do you do open houses? Jen, I see you unmuted.
I do open houses for a few reasons. One, it's an agreement that I made when I came onto the team, right? So honoring my word. Second, I do them because when I first started in real estate, I'm not from Texas, and working up at the restaurant all the time, I wasn't even in this area. So it was a great opportunity for me to actually get out and build a sphere. I didn't really have anybody here, and it was a way for me to get face to face, which I know is all of our strength, really, but it's where I was the most comfortable, people coming to me. So all I had to do was set the stage, they come to me, and then I interact from there.
Okay, so why do you keep doing it? Since like, I mean, for the same reasons? It
is my most successful my lead lever. I literally can spend 2 hours in an open house and walk away with probably at least one solid, like ready to go lead that I can close within a month or less. You know, it makes the most sense. If I can spend 2 hours and make sure and have a solid lead, why would I spend 3-5 hours for a maybe?
Yeah. I get that.
I go into every open house with the intention that I will take away at least one solid piece of business. That's it.
I love that. I love that. Jonathan, I saw you unmute. Yes, sir. Why do you do open houses?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, same thing that Jen just said. I mean, it's there's no better way to get in front of people that are ready to go, especially in this market. We have a very unfair advantage that I think most agents didn't have years ago, or even, a year and a half ago, right? We have people that are literally like ready to go walking into our open houses. And there's so many open house opportunities. So they're already like breaking themselves in with regards to the market and what they like, what they don't like before they even get there. So if you're really our ability to sell the value that we can offer as a top agent, and our experience and the knowledge that we have in the market to help them negotiate, if you can really like sell them on that, then they're going to walk away and like, why would I want to work with anybody else? So.
Okay. I love it. Ryan, what about you? Why open houses?
Yeah, pretty similar to like what Jen said. I just found it was a really easy way to be successful in meeting leads. Like we always hear that stat that people work with the first agent they meet, and they might have talked to somebody on the phone, but we're typically, when you're in an open house, you're the first face they ever see and kind of associate with real estate. And I was finding, even at a young age, I mean, I was 21 years old when I started doing open houses, and I look super young, and I had all these things that, like, people, like, if I knew what I was talking about, like Jonathan's saying, if we can show that we're knowledgeable about the area or the neighborhood, and they saw us face to face, those people just wanted to work with me. And like, I'd follow up with them the next day or whenever. And and it was just so much easier to get those leads than I thought any other lead source. And it just became successful, and I just kept rolling with it. And like Jen says, I just need one person to roll through that open house, and I can find a closing in the next little bit.
Oh, I like that. Right on, right on. Joseph, anything different for you or anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I think that everybody hit it on the head. It's the easiest way to find, people that are ready to go in a relatively short amount of time, whether it be buyers and sellers. The open houses that I've done, you get plenty of people that are neighbors that are just curious. And it's like, okay, well, you popped in for a little bit. Have you ever considered selling? Like, this house is listed at this. What would that look like for you and your family? And so, just like they touched on, that the hottest leads are generally those. It's kind of like when we're prospecting for listings, FSBOs, they're ready to sell right away, and open house people, a lot of times they're ready to buy. And then from the selling side, you can generally get some really good leads from the neighborhood.
So Joseph, I'll start with you. Do you have a strategy around choosing your open house? What is your strategy? Can you expand on that?
I look for really sexy open houses, something that people are going to want to go into, and they're going to be really excited to stop in. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, just because, all of the represented buyers are going to be going in there too with their agents, and, they're going to be looking at that. But I look at neighborhoods that I know really well. And when they come in, like Ryan was saying, if you're knowledgeable about what you're talking about, if you're knowledgeable about the neighborhood, you can have some great conversations. That's one of the things that I've really focused on, is knowing what's in the neighborhood, what's selling. And hey, if this doesn't work for you, there's one down the road that is like literally 200 square feet bigger, smaller. But I think you'd really like it. What do you think about that? So strategy is neighborhoods that I know really well, and neighborhoods that are hot. Here in Austin, I know South Austin, 0445 are, really trendy. That's where everybody wants to be. And then I live in Crestview, so I walk my dog in my neighborhood every day. And so I have a good idea of, what's going on in that neighborhood.
Excellent. Excellent. Ryan, what about you? Anything that is your strategy around choosing the open house? Like, is there a strategy, or you just wake up and do whatever?
No, I think Joseph nailed that. Finding listings that people are going to come to is obviously important. I think the biggest thing is I just started doing open houses where I wanted business, right? If I want to work a certain price point, like if you want to work a $700,000 to $900,000 price point, go do open houses as many as you can. Obviously, there's going to be some weeks where maybe one's not available. That doesn't mean we don't do an open house, but do them where you want the business. And that's what I started doing. And, our price points obviously have moved up. It used to be, I want to do 400 to 600,000. And now it's more like 600 to 800,000 is the goal. But I just do it where I want the business. And I found that, believe it or not, that's where the people would come from. But yeah, it's really just that. And just, even if there isn't that perfect one, still just kind of grinding your teeth and doing it, because you're always surprised on who ends up walking in the door.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Jen, are you unmuted? What about you? Do you have a strategy, or do you just show up wherever?
I'm a little more open about my open houses. So where I live is a little more rural,
Mhm.
and while I'm willing to go anywhere, what I like to look for is a place where there's a lot of traffic,
Okay.
where I can have signs in major intersections where I can drive a lot of traffic to it. I don't mind a lower price point. Of course, I love the higher ones, right? And I don't mind the lower ones. What I'm looking for there are I'm looking for investor opportunities. I'm looking to work with investors. I'm looking for maybe that first time buyer because they will be the most loyal clients you will ever have. If you can take that first time buyer, get them in a home and you treat them right, you'll have them for life and you'll have their family, you'll have everybody. So I like to look for that as well. And then of course I do like, to have a sexy listing and get in there and really show the value of the team of what we can do. What I tend to talk about at the open house, especially lately, is, I just tell people, I'm like, once I've built just a touch of rapport with them, I just let them know, I'm like, what I do for a living, what it looks like is that I buy and sell, help people buy and sell real estate. I said, what I actually do is I help people build wealth through real estate. And my intention is that I help you build generational wealth. Is that something that you'd like me to help you with today?
Ooh, hard to say no to that. Right
exactly.
on. Right on. Jonathan, do you have a strategy?
Yeah, so everybody's kind of touched on it. The only thing that I think I would add to that I focus heavily on, and maybe it's just because we're here in Austin and everything moves so quickly, but I will not do an open house on a property that's been on the market for more than like 3 days or so. So typically if it's been listed, if we're at Thursday and we're coming up to the weekend, like if something was listed on like Monday, I'm kind of iffy if I would want to host it or not. And my mindset behind that is that it's already been out there long enough. Likely anybody that's interested in seeing it has probably contacted an agent or Redfin agent or somebody to get in to see it. So I want something that's fresh. Like literally people are just busting down the door to get in because they haven't had a chance to see it. So, I have done open houses on properties that have been sitting there for a little bit longer and have had good results as well. But primarily my focus is finding something that's not stale and something that's fresh and people are really wanting to get into.
Since you brought up the topic of fresh, how long does it take you to find like such a great open house? Because sometimes, finding something that's only been on the market 1, 2, 3 days is more of a challenge than finding something that's been on the market, a week and a half. How long do you give for that portion?
Yeah, you're right. It's a risky strategy, right? Because you're literally either depending on having like a network of listing agents that you've hosted open houses with before, reaching out to them, reconnecting, saying, hey, do you have anything coming up this weekend? So really trying to find it before it even pops in the MLS. Next strategy is like look on the MLS for anything that's 0 or 1 days, something like that, which everybody and their mom is reaching out to that agent saying, hey, can I host an open house, right? So it really comes down to just developing a network of listing agents or agent contacts that you can connect with and say, hey, you got anything coming up this weekend, next weekend, just kind of being top of mind so that when they do have something, they know that, oh, I want to go to Jonathan because I know he does a great job. He sends me feedback afterwards. He puts out a ton of signs. He does anything and everything he can to really drive strategy or drive volume or people through their open house.
Sounds like everything's about relationships. Like you do the work first and then you build the relationships, and relationships make everything easier. I hope everybody got that, right? Okay, let's switch gears to like nurtures, right? To get good nurtures from these open houses, not maybe like we'll talk about appointments here in a second, but like, how do you ensure that when you're doing these open houses, you didn't just waste 2 hours or 3 hours or however long you're doing these open houses? What's your strategy around nurtures? Are you just talking to everybody that comes in? Are you zeroing in on some people? Are you getting everybody signed in and then your nurture game is after the open house? Like, what's your strategy? And it's going to be normal if everybody's is different. Whoever wants to take it first.
I'll go.
Okay.
So yeah, my strategy is definitely not to get everyone to sign in. I already have enough people in my database, too many people in my database that like I'm overwhelmed, right? So my goal is not to get everyone signed in. I know a lot of people do that. They, hey, please sign in as soon as you come in the door. My strategy is to get people inside, build some rapport with them, basically LP mama, right? Like first invite them in. ask their names, introduce yourself, tell them to look around, give them an overview of the house. And then as they're kind of circling around, to start kind of chatting with them, learning more about their situation, location, their motivation, pre-approval, and really just focusing on the value that we can add. And then literally at the very end, like, okay, great. I'm so glad that you came in today. I'm really glad that we have such a connection. I don't know about you, but I truly feel it. I think it's great that we would stay in touch, and let me either introduce you to our lender partner at BK Cove Mortgage, or let me send you some other options here in the neighborhood, or set up a time to go and look at some other homes. So
Okay.
really focusing on only putting people in that I know that I have a chance at converting or working with, and not just putting anybody and everybody in our database.
Okay. Noted. Ryan, what about you? Strategy?
Yeah, I think I don't get them to sign in like the second they walk in the door. I want to build a little rapport, like Jonathan was saying. And then if there's one person there, I'll give them all the time in the world. Your guys' open houses might be a little bit busier than maybe some in Bellingham. Ours can be pretty busy. But if one person's there, I give them all the time in the world, even if they have an agent. But if there's multiple people, I figure out who's the best lead, right? If someone's like, oh, I'm working with Sally at Remax, they're probably working with Sally at Remax. I'm not going to give that person nearly as much time as I am the person that maybe is a neighbor or told me, no, we're just kind of starting off looking, right? So if you have multiple people in the open house, prioritize on who's going to be the best opportunity for you. I try to get anybody to sign in. If they give me enough grief, so be it. Like I said, I'll get them to sign in. I'll nurture them forever. I'll nurture someone for 2 years and maybe they turn to a paycheck. But yeah, I just try to prioritize on who's the best lead. And like Jonathan said, it's really simple. I mean, it's LP Mama once they're in there, and once you've asked, 2 questions to kind of break the ice. So just don't overthink it is what I'd say too.
I love that. Jen?
Well, this is, I guess, we've all been pretty aligned so far, and this is where we're going to diverge, because
Here we go.
I'm very different than the guys on this one. Everyone signs in at my open house. The only people that don't is if their agent is there with them. I will take their agent's business card, just because I don't want to, necessarily. And that's just the choice that I make. But if they are not, even if they say they're represented, oh my gosh, if you guys don't know about this yet, the QR codes that we have in marketing, I just started using them at my open house. I love, love, love them. What was happening before with a super busy open house is that there would become kind of a backup, and then it's almost like herding cats, because it's like, well, I don't want them standing in line. So it's like, well, you go look at the house and I'll catch you on the next one. And then my focus is there on making sure people are signing in rather than on the people. And so the QR code, what I did is printed it out, put it on the door. So they sign in before they even come through the door, which gives us more time to actually be with them, right? So they're not trying to sign in and I'm trying to talk to them at the same time. They're signed in and they're in the door. Now I'm like, just like, at the restaurant, at the host stand, I give them the warm welcome, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. We find that people typically come to open houses for one of 2 reasons. Either they're a neighbor looking to find out maybe what their own home is worth, or maybe looking to see if you have a friend that you want to be your neighbor, or you're actually a buyer. Which one are you? And I just take it right off the script and go from there. And then you can ease into LP Mama depending on, and then I just dance with the conversation. But everybody signs in, because here's the thing, even if they're not ready now, I don't know when they will be, but even if it's not a lead for me, it's something I can bring back to the team. If I'm going to go out and hunt, I'm going to bring back as much game as I can.
Wow. Okay. All right. I gotcha. Joseph, anything for you? How are you strategizing around getting good nurtures?
Yeah, so I'm a lot like Jen. I have everybody sign in.
Okay.
But I'm also like Ryan and Jonathan in the fact that I focus on getting at least one good lead, one good nurture per open house. If it's a busy one, the more you focus on one person, I feel like if somebody's interested, they'll wait in line just to talk to you, especially if you're bringing value to the person that you're talking to, And so it's just, it's hilarious. I actually kind of thought of this. I had a buddy back home, and on Tinder, he just swiped. He wouldn't care. He just swipe right, and then he'd sort it all out later, right? And so that's kind of how I think about like just having people sign in, get everybody signed in. You have their information, and then from there you can follow up later and kind of sort out the ones that are like really hot. But then taking notes on the people that you talk to and you have a really good conversation with, and making sure that they're the first person you call is like, hey, look, I really enjoyed our time talking. What does your week look like? Are you available tomorrow? Let's go check out some other homes that are in the area. So really just focusing on the people that you can feel are hot leads at the open house, and just letting everybody else kind of, if they want to talk to you and you're bringing value, they'll wait. And so I focus on getting at least one good lead and just focusing on one conversation at a time.
I did see a question in the chat box of like, when you have those hot open houses, 20 plus people, like, is there a different strategy there? Do you do anything differently there? If that is experience any of you have in the 20 plus people, or is that every open house? I don't know. What are you experiencing, you guys? Jen?
My opinion is when you have that many, it is more challenging to really connect. So it really takes a focus on greeting them right away, like being in conversation right away, so that then you can find out a lot just from those first couple of questions, whether it's like, oh, well, hey, you know what, go look at the house and circle back with me, because I'd love your feedback. I'd love to give the seller some feedback on what you loved and maybe what didn't work for you, and see how we can make this better. Would that be great? Are you good with that? So I'm already telling them that I want them to come back, because I might have more time to talk to them then.
I like that. That's a good strategy. Circle back, right? Clear is kind, right? And when you're clear with people, and most of the time they'll do it. Anybody else do anything differently for like those packed open houses? Or you just operate the same way you would anything else? It's just a time thing and you get to who you get.
I do think it's impossible sometimes to get everyone to sign in when you have eight people in the door at once. And again, just try to prioritize, but just be confident. Asking for sign-ins, like I honestly a lot of times will just have my phone or have a sign-in sheet, and I'll sign them in for them, and I'll be like, hey, what's your name? Oh, it's Jonathan. What's a good number for you, Jonathan? And I'll just stare at them with a pen and pencil in my hand with the paper. And I've had a lot of people just say like, oh, I don't want to do that. It's like, no one has the guts to tell me no almost any time, like 90% of the time. Like those 10% times, oh, we have an agent, and they'll give me a card sometimes, but I never get bad phone numbers because they can't think quick enough to write down like 555-5555. Just have confidence, like just trust in yourself, like we've talked about it. If you've done 10 minutes of homework, you're the expert in that house. So just have confidence when there's a lot of people in there and you need to get people to sign in.
Right on. Well, speaking of, go ahead.
I was going to say, if they won't sign in, they don't get to come through the open house at my open houses. I let them know it's a privilege, not a right, to view a private home. I'd love to have you come through, but if you're not willing to sign in so that we have data, because who knows who these people are, right? I don't want them in our seller's house doing things maybe they shouldn't be. If they're not willing to sign in, it begs the question why to me. So they sign in or they don't go through.
I hope what you guys are hearing from all of our panelists is their sense of confidence, not ego, sense of confidence, right? They are very clear on their mindset around this. They're very clear on their standards around it, right? And everyone can have different standards, different strategies, but they themselves are very clear. Jonathan, anything you'd add?
I was just going to tell a story about maybe a month ago where I had a really busy open house, and there was a family coming through that I just kind of noticed. I'm like, I need to talk to them, but for whatever reason, I had a nosy neighbor that just was taking up all my time and I couldn't get away. And so I saw the family walk out the door, and I was like, pardon me. I stepped away. I grabbed one of my flyers and business card, and I ran to the driveway, and I said, hey, you know what? I'm so sorry I didn't get a opportunity to talk to you guys. I would love to reconnect if there's anything I can do to help. Well, they actually called me later that afternoon. They said they love the hustle. They knew that was a person. They said that they were listening as I was talking to somebody else in the open house. They called me. I put them under contract 2 days later. So don't be afraid to move around and, show people that you're willing to work, right? And people will recognize that.
Gosh, it almost sounds like you guys are not hosting open houses, but you're using this as a real lead gen lever. Right? Sometimes we talk about hosting open houses so much that we almost feel like we are hosts, and we are not, right? We are we have the keys to this home, right? And this is 2 or 3 hours that you have committed. And if you're going to do this on a weekend and you're not going to be with your family, like make it worth it, right? Okay, so let's switch gears to setting appointments at open houses. Is anybody able to do that? If so, what does that look like? So not nurtures, not like I'm going to call you a week from now, but like they feel good about, you know, starting to look at homes with you, or setting a listing appointment with you. When you do that, how does that sound? What is the strategy there?
I'll go.
Okay.
So kind of a two-pronged strategy. So what I'll actually do is I'll actually print out MLS listings of similar houses in the area, usually 2 or so miles around. I'll specifically find ones that don't have open houses that weekend. So essentially there's no other way for them to get in. It's not like they can just pop into the open house later that day. So it's an opportunity to kind of create conversations like, oh, you don't like this house we're in, you want this one that's a little bit bigger or closer to that park or whatever it might be. So that's an opportunity to say, oh, cool. Well, then let's meet there, right? So that's a great way to kind of set an appointment. You know, even if it's not a super solid appointment, but at least get another opportunity to get in front of them and show them our value. And then also talking about, you know, there's a lot of buyers out there that work with, or that they say they're working with someone, right? Like, oh yeah, I have an agent. Oh, great. So tell me what that looks like. And they're like, oh, well, you know, they gave me a list of open houses to check out this weekend. And like, oh, okay, interesting. I actually don't do that. I actually schedule time with my clients. We'll put together a list of 5 houses and let's go explore them together. That way I can really learn what you like and what you don't like. And you can also use my experience in real estate to understand like maybe why this house would be good or not good for you, right? And just really showing them that like there is value in working with a dedicated agent that's going to be dedicated to you, and not just like submitting offers with Redfin or, you know, looking at the Zillow agent or something like that.
I like it. I like it. Good strategy. Jen, I saw you unmute.
Yeah. So a couple different ways. I've actually even had people at an open house. I've had this happen where after talking with them for a little bit, they signed a buyer's rep right there with me. For us to start working together. After an open house is the one time that I will show a buyer a property similar to Jonathan, something, you know, that I've already know is in the neighborhood that might meet their criteria. It's the one time that I will show without a buyer's rep. And it's usually about one home. And then there was something else. Adelina, will you give me just a little bit more of the question again? And I'll see if I can.
Yeah. So you're trying to set appointments with these people. Did you get it?
I said it at the open house.
Okay.
So when I'm talking to them, you know, even if there isn't something to go see right then, it's once I've established the value of working with me, right? And it happens often. I've had several times where they're, oh yeah, we're working with somebody else. Okay, great. How's that going? You know, have you put in a lot of offers? Are you really, how's it working out? Are you excited? And if they're like, well, we've seen 50 homes and no, we haven't put in an offer. I'm like, ooh, gosh, that's a lot. You know, yeah, I don't work that way. If we've seen 2 and you aren't ready to put in an offer, we're going to come back to the drawing board and see what I'm missing in the conversation. But, you know, I mean, I guess if you just like looking at homes, then that works. But it sounded like you guys really wanted to buy. So what could we do to maybe move that forward? Like, you know, and then yeah.
Does it sound like Jen really owns these open houses? Like, or does it sound like she just woke up in the morning and showed up like 5 minutes before the open house started, right? It sounds like this is like her full-time job, her full-time career. And like, this is a way for her to close business and get into relationship with people rather quickly. Ryan, what about you? Anything on setting appointments from open houses? Is that even a thing?
Oh, that's definitely a thing. I'm really glad you brought it up, because I think a lot of people get in this mindset because you met them in person, like you're supposed to call them the next day or call them on Monday and then set the appointment on the phone. And it's just so, you know, ass backwards, to be honest. Like just call them, like, or just ask for the appointment there. I think Jonathan, I think you nailed it. I always print off comps, and I always have, I do homes like Bellingham's not as big as Austin. Like you can get anywhere in Bellingham like 15 minutes. So I just try to go at everything that's in that price point, right? Like if it's a $650,000 house, I'll print off everything 550 to 750. And then if I know a little bit what they're looking for, I'm like, did you see this one on, you know, 123 Main Street? And like, and usually the answer is no. Like, well, my open house is over at 2. It takes me about a half an hour to pick up the signs. Why don't we just go take a look at it at 3 o'clock if you're still available? And I use that as my close a lot of times. Is I say, hey, I'm done at 2. It takes me half an hour to pick up the signs. Why don't we meet at 3? And I use that a lot for sellers too. Like if there's a neighbor in there and they're kind of talking about their house, it's like, hey, it's really no trouble for me to come over after the open house. It takes me about a half an hour to pick up the signs. Why not come over? We can look at the values of your house just so you have a ballpark on what it's worth. And I just try to get them as the closer to the open house, the hotter they are. And that's the same, even if you don't get the appointment and you're following up. But I've noticed that people, if you've built good rapport and you seem like that expert and have something of value for them, that they'll probably meet with you there if you ask.
So I'm hearing a lot of speed to lead, right? We think about it when it comes to like Brivity leads coming in, right? Think about it the same way for any open house leads as well. I'm also hearing, I'm not hearing a lot of like timidness from you guys yet. Maybe at one point in your career you were, but I'm hearing a lot of like, I am a real estate expert. I'm not a realtor. I'm not just like hanging out, like, opening doors. I am a real estate consultant. I am a real estate expert, and I walk around like that, and I act like that's my job. So if you're not hearing that, you may want to re-listen to this interview. Joseph, anything else you would add as far as like setting appointments, or is that a thing, or is that something you're working on? How are you doing with that?
Yeah, so setting appointments, I used to, be like, oh, well, I got the nerd, I'll just kind of get them on a plan and keep in touch, until I had a couple of missed opportunities and it stung. You call them the next day and they're like, oh, well, thank you so much. It was nice to meet you. And we actually called our agent that we were working with last year to put an offer in on this house, and it looks like we're going to get it. And like, oh my gosh, that stung so much. And so from there, it's just like, well, no, and focusing on speed to lead and getting better at that. That's something that I knew, like with open houses, that I needed to be, I needed to improve on, is just setting that, because I was timid at first. I'm a very likable person. And so I generally try to keep it that way. And I'm not the type of person, or I wasn't, to be like, oh, well, let's do this, but when you come from, when you talk like that, people are more receptive than you actually think, and it's not awkward. It's not, I saw Casey's comment.
I mean, somebody's got to take control of the situation, right?
Right. And that's what
people
want.
Like leaders.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say, is people like leaders. They want to be told what to do. And, coming with a close like that is definitely something that, I've used a lot more recently with success.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I hope everybody wrote that down. Like, people do like leaders, right? People do anything we do, right? Like we're actually, like, especially in America, we're conditioned, we're programmed to be told what to do, right? When we go to the Verizon store, right, we don't just walk up and say, help me, right? Like, there's a process that we follow. Everything's a process. Why wouldn't this have a process? Any sellers that oh, sorry, Jonathan, go ahead. Before we jump in.
This kind of goes back to what Jen says about working with first-time home buyers. Like last year, I probably worked with, I don't even know, like maybe 20 first-time home buyers, right? And they're my favorite, because not only are they going to be loyal, and I'm already receiving their friends and referrals for this year, right? But like they have no idea what's going on, and especially in a very competitive market. And so they need to be led through the process, and they need to everything be explained. And if you're an agent that's like, listen, I don't have time for that, then maybe first-time home buyers aren't for you, right? But open houses are a great place where people are just getting started, right? And they're just thinking about buying a house. And so if you can like lay out a plan for them very easily, like, hey, here's first step, let's get you pre-approved. Let's explore some options. Let's maybe this zip code's too expensive, we need to drop to the next one down, or something like that, and guide them through the process. They're going to be the most loyal people ever. And that's what comes through the open houses a lot, or first-time home buyers.
Yeah, I love that.
And piggybacking on Jonathan, like, I like to plant the seed that I'm going to help you get this goal, but this is just the beginning of our journey together, because if I'm going to help you build wealth, like, I show them and I start talking about, great, you're such the perfect age. This is your first home. You know what? In about a year, we should be looking at buying your next one, so that you only have to put 3.5 to 5% down instead of 20%. Let me show you how we can build this wealth that you want, this pathway.
Amazing. I love that. I love that. Sharon, in our chat, she said, that people want confident and attentive people, right? Anywhere you go into a restaurant, you want a server that's confident and attentive, right? When you say, what are the specials today? You're expecting to hear what the specials are, right? And you want them attentive to you so that your drink is never empty, right? Same thing for realtors. Like, that's like, I don't know why we have like this mindset sometimes. At least I have had the mindset of like, I want to be nice. I don't want to infringe on their time and their space and like that's my natural, right? And that's not what people want. Okay, let's switch gears to just to sellers. Does anybody focus on getting sellers from open houses? If so, what is your strategy? What is your thought process around listings? Is there anything that you have been able to do to turn open house attendants or pre-open house people into sellers? Any successes that we could take away from there?
One of the things that Chelsea and I like to do is to go out and door knock beforehand, so that, we're already putting our face in front of the neighborhood and, inviting them to the open house, making it comfortable that way, and letting them know that, hey, we're here if you are interested in value. Adelina, do you care if I answer Jordan's question that she threw up in the
go
chat?
for it. Yes, please.
Okay, so Jordan had asked, how
I missed it.
are
I'm
we
so glad you did.
discussing with sellers how an open house is to their benefit? And what I tell my sellers, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to put the easy in this for you, right? Rather than dealing with your schedule and having to let people in the house on their schedule, right? And you've got to get out and all this. I said, we're going to take Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to do open houses. You go away for the weekend, go do something fun. I mean, obviously, if you want to come home, you can, but we're going to knock this out, because my intention is that come Monday, we're going to call for the highest and best offers, and we're sitting down either Monday evening or Tuesday. How does that sound? That way your life doesn't have to really be interrupted. We're going to keep it simple.
Love it. When you are door knocking, Jen, around this open house, what are you saying? And how do you not make it awkward? Because people hear door knocking and they're like, oh my God.
Out.
I mean, I'm just saying what everybody's thinking.
Yeah.
So
no, okay. I guess to me, it's like, I think it's fun, right?
Okay.
Because to me, it's almost a game. It's like,
okay,
how many people can I get, how many people will actually answer their door? And then how am I going to, in the shortest amount of time, show the most amount of value? How am I going to keep them engaged? How am I going to get invited in? So it's like the game that I'm playing, right? How can I, from the knock to the, from Diana could take a step back as they open the door. Hey, I just, we're in the neighborhood, and just letting your neighbors know that we're going to be hosting an open house over here. We'd love to have you stop by. And we're also offering free home evaluations. If you've ever wondered about what the value of your home might be, it's a great opportunity to look at what the market's doing. It takes about 15 minutes, and we can give you a good idea of where you might be. Have you thought about selling?
I love that. And the key here, Jen, what I'm hearing, like, you don't sound like you're selling me gutters or trying to get me to buy solar panels. Like, everyone's interested in what the houses around them are doing. Like, this is their biggest asset.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then we're going to go back around after the open house and let them know, hey, oh my goodness, it was even, we expected it to be great, and it was even greater. We had this many people through. They got this many offers. So if you're thinking, people want to be in this neighborhood. So if you've given it any thought, this might be a great time to dive a little deeper into that conversation.
Oh, that's a double whammy. So getting to them before and getting to them after. I think, and I'm not sure what the other gentlemen are going to say, but I think that if the strategy is to get sellers, if you're not doing the face-to-face, or even, gosh, if you're not door knocking, I hope you're circle prospecting around it at least. Like, those are key opportunities, those bookends, like before the open house and after the open house, to share your message. You just had a great listing, whether it was your listing or not. Like, you rented that listing. Ryan, I see that you unmuted. What would you add for sellers?
Yeah, I was gonna say the circle prospecting part. You know, you guys are in Texas, I'm in Washington. There was snow on the ground last week. I don't like door knock as much as I like to circle prospect. So yeah, and it's probably, I always tell people circle prospecting and door knocking, it's basically the same script, you're just not in person. So I like I said, I think it's a great opportunity to circle prospect around those neighborhoods, even if you are, I love that term, renting the listing from another agent. You're there. Like if they show up, you're the face that's there. And the other thing I always say is people always say, oh, all I got is a bunch of neighbors. Like that should be awesome. Like getting a bunch of neighbors is awesome. Those are sellers. I'd rather have a seller right now than a buyer. And just make sure you get those people's contact information and put them on a dang market report and have some tasks and an auto plan on them, because you will forget about them if you don't. And I've had people that I met an open house and like a year and a half later, they emailed me because they got market reports and they needed to list a house. So don't underestimate just getting everybody in the database, whether they're just that nosy neighbor, and put them on a market report and calling them as much as you can.
I love that. There is a statistic National Association of Realtors puts out, and every time you see a sign go up in a neighborhood, the statistic is 3 more will go up in the next 90 days, right? Now, obviously, if there's like 15 houses in the neighborhood, that's not going to work. But in general, like we're talking average size subdivision, neighborhood area, for every 1 sign, 3 more will pop up in the next 90 days. It's either going to be yours or somebody else's. You have control of that, right? But it's not a hope and a prayer, it's a strategy. Joseph, Jonathan, anything else you'd add to the seller conversation yourselves, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, for me, like sellers, whether it be through door knocking or circle prospecting around it, or if they just walk in, if they show the slightest bit of interest about selling, yeah, it's great to walk through like, what they could potentially get for their house. But it's really important to use that face-to-face opportunity to uncover where they would go.
Okay.
Whether they, if they're like, oh, I'm ready to get out of downtown Austin and I want to, get to Kyle or Buda or San Marcos, or, stretch out a little bit further, and really finding that early on motivation that can carry you through like those future nurture phone calls, not just a market report, but a listing alert to get them excited about potentially moving, and really finding, kind of egging them on with regards to here's why you need to sell, because you're going to get a huge return on your house. But also we can help you find a great place that might make a lot more sense for you now in this market.
I love that. Cool. Anything else on that, Joseph?
Yeah, same thing with market reports, and then following up when the open house that you were at, when that closes, if you did get it from somebody else, just following up and saying, hey, did you see that house closed for 100K over ask? Like that's crazy, right? And just having that follow up with them too, because you're going to know that you had a good conversation with them, and just kind of keeping that train going, keeping it going, like, hey, what would that do for you? If you're able to get 100K over ask, where would you all go? I know we talked about, maybe Georgetown, maybe Hutto. Like, is that still in the plan sometime in the future? And then with door knocking, I really liked what Jen said, making it a game. And one of the things that I like to do is just fear of loss. And so, like to go door knocking with a partner and just giving them, $100 and saying, I have to, for every 10 people that I talk to, I'll get my $100 back. So it's $10 a person that you talk to, and you're not going to want to lose that money. So you're going to make sure that you get all of those people in that you talk to, no matter what.
Whatever you have to do, right, to gamify it. The thing that I see a missed opportunity, at least within our team, is when you're not using, and I'm not saying you have to use the Brivity like sign in, but when you're not using the Brivity sign in, it's very difficult. There's no tag, right, for that open house. So when that open house goes under contract, when it closes, right, you don't have the ability to go back to those people and re-engage them. Unless you go in and do your own tagging, right? So around creating efficiencies, right? Jen talked about her QR code that she uses, right? Is there anything you guys do to create efficiencies around social media, around using Brivity, any auto plans, anything around like creating like your job easier? Anything you would add that people need to hear? Anywhere?
Definitely the Brivity sign in. For sure.
Brivity sign in.
Everyone knows that, but when I first started, I thought that handwriting was a better idea for whatever reason, and definitely not, right? You'll lose those papers all over the place. So And it's great that the Brivity sign in automatically sets up a listing alert for them, starts texting them automatically. I sometimes prefer like to hit pause and send them a more personal text afterwards while I'm sitting there in the open house, recounting what we talked about, so that they may, oh wow, he really was listening. And then if they don't respond, then click the auto text back on.
Okay, got it. Jen, I heard your voice.
Yeah, no, I was just saying because before I was part of the team, you know, I had sign-in sheets, and I probably still have some somewhere that got lost in the, you know, just a lot of lost opportunity, missed opportunity. The Brivity sign-in is one of my favorite tools that we have. And the QR code makes it so much simpler. It's so streamlined, and I'm a big fan. And then the VAs they make, you know, flyers for us, you know, to put on social media and stuff. Part of the reason I joined a team is because that's not my strength. Figuring out marketing and advertising, and I don't like it. I didn't want to do it. And I get to take all that off my plate so I can focus on what I am good at, which is actually being with people and talking to people and getting them comfortable in their motivation and moving them forward.
Right on. I hear that. Joseph, I saw you unmute. Do you want to have something?
Oh, I think I had just had it left.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I just look for the unmute. I'm like hunting unmutes right now. If you could leave us with a good script that you feel like, man, that is like, you know, either around, you know, objection handlers, like I'm just looking, or I'm not interested, or closing for an appointment, or I'm looking to buy, or any of that, like anything you hear, if there is a script that you're like, man, I really knock it out of the park with this one. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, you can insert just a tad bit of ego right here. Like this is the confident part, right? What would that look like for you? What does that look like, sound like for you? Any particular scripts that you just love? Jonathan.
So I guess I'm picturing a person who we've built rapport just talking at the open house.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they're serious. I know that they're not working with someone, but they're kind of giving me the feeling that maybe they're just shopping realtors. That's when I would really talk about, even if they have a pre-approval, if they're like, yeah, we're already pre-approved, like, great, awesome, I'm so glad to hear that. So one of the really cool parts about being at Keller Williams and us being the #1 team in the country is that we're big enough that we actually have our own in-house lender. It's called BKCO Mortgage. The big advantage to you as a buyer, so over any other lender that you're going to talk to, is by working exclusively with our team, you're able to save you're able to save close to 1.5% on your closing costs. And what that looks like is the lender doesn't charge you any origination fees, no lender fees. They give you a credit towards your appraisal and then an additional $1,000 at closing. So let's just take, for example, a $600,000 house. You're going to take 1% of that. So that's 6%. Or I'm sorry, $6,000, and you're going to add another $1,500 on top of that. So you're going to save $7,500, give or take, over any other lender that you're going to work with. So let me do this. Let me go ahead and get you connected with my go-to loan officer and make an easy introduction. I always recommend that you have at least 2 to 3 pre-approvals. So I can easily make other recommendations for you. Let's go ahead and get you pre-approved with BKCO Mortgage so you can really see how much you can save.
Oh, I like it. That was smooth. That was smooth. Okay, this is a good one to listen back to. Ryan, I saw you unmute.
Yeah. My big thing is I just don't like, with objections, I just don't seem like I get very many. And I think if we come from this place, if I'm bothering people, if I'm doing these things, you know, I have an agent, like that usually comes out if I'm not doing a good enough job building rapport. So I feel like at the very beginning, our conversations at open houses are, if they're a buyer, is almost just like having an LP Mama conversation. So practice those, like when you're doing script practice on regular, like practice doing it on an open house. It's the same thing, just as if you're calling a Brivity buyer lead. But I think if you come with, like I think all 4 of us have talked about, if you come with 20 minutes of homework and some resources like a mortgage lender, like BKCO, with just comps, with other homes for sale, I tend to get a lot less than if I just kind of roughed it and showed up there. And then other than that, my only other script I'd say is that one I said earlier is, hey, I'm out of here at 2 o'clock, takes me half an hour picking my signs. Why don't we do whatever, why don't we go look at that house that you guys saw on the sheet, or why don't I come over and give you a value on your home? But just build rapport, be confident, and have the knowledge. And I think the amount of objections you'll get will just dwindle. And because I just don't feel like I get that many anymore. And that's what I would kind of leave it off as.
Oh, that's really good. Thank you for saying that. Turn that on its head. Jen.
I love everything that we're aligned again, Ryan and Jonathan, just so you know. I love everything that both of you just said. What I do is I mean, it is a script, I guess, but really just be naturally curious, be inquisitive, start asking them questions. Questions control the conversation. You can lead them anywhere you want to go if you're asking enough of the right questions. So when I get them engaged, hey, oh, you're just looking great. Yeah. Obviously I like to look at homes too. That's part of what got me in this industry. So what would your perfect house look like? What would that look like? Where do you want to be? When do you want to be there? How's it gonna, and just on and on and on, but very conversational, right? So anytime they go somewhere, I listen to that and then I acknowledge it and respond with another question and take them down the path till finally they're like, oh, you know what? Maybe we are ready. Yeah, why don't we get together and talk about lenders and so on and so forth.
Love that. Joseph, want to wrap us up?
Yeah, I don't have like a golden script or anything like that, but it goes back to what Jen was saying. And I think the most important thing that you can do is just be a good listener, no matter what. And, whatever mind trick you need to do to remember details, just make sure and be a good listener. And that way people feel like they're not just a number that walked in, like they feel like they're a person, and then they remember you as a genuine person. And, I think a lot of this has been about relationships, from getting good open house leads to, getting the good open houses. It all comes down to relationships. And, with those other agents that may have some awesome homes coming to market, they want to trust you and they want to make sure that you get the chance to hold it open because they know that you're going to provide a lot for them. So I think just being a good listener at the open houses, and then setting the appointments. Like, I love what Ryan said. He's really matter of fact about it. Just like, hey, and I think Casey put in the comments that he's like, why wouldn't I want to meet with him? It's not like invasive or intrusive, anything like that. It's just like, yeah, I'll, of course. Yeah, let's go do that. I want to meet with him. Come by. But yeah.
As we wrap this, who putting in the reps gets you to this level of confidence? How many open houses, like if you had to ballpark it, how many open houses have you done, Joseph, in the short time you've been here?
I shoot for 4 a week since I started. And
Okay.
So shoot for that. And then this month, well, since the beginning of this year, I've actually wanted to do one week off. That way I can, kind of take that off, but focusing on 5 per week.
Okay, excellent. Like Jonathan, like if you had to ballpark it, have you done 50 open houses, 100 open houses? Have you done 20 open houses since you started?
I believe last year, so my first full year in the business, I think I did over 80.
Okay.
It's because I was doing anywhere from 3 to 5 a week.
Yeah.
Same thing as Joseph. And basically just really, I was so new that I knew I needed to put myself out there as much as possible, because some open
Sure.
houses are going to be a bust. And so, sometimes doing 3 on a Saturday, which is crazy, but it gave me the most diversity as possible to get as many people to walk through as possible.
Well, it's really difficult to get good at anything if you oftentimes I hear, well, my open house is bad, and then they stop doing open houses, right? I don't know what to tell you there. Jen, how many open houses do you think you've done so far in your career? Like
A lot.
like more than 100?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Okay.
And just because I enjoy them, right?
Okay.
I mean, and I think that's part of it. Sounds like the guys are the same. It's like showing up there, and I don't show up and it's like, oh, I have to do this open house because, it's a team agreement. Like, I'm excited. Come on in. Let's talk. Right. I bring that energy level. And then bring them up. So yeah, I
A
love
lot. Okay.
lot.
I love. Ryan, if you had to ballpark it, our guest from Bellingham, Washington, how many open houses have you done? Like, is this, or does this just come so naturally to you and that's why you're so good?
I don't know, a lot. Definitely a lot more. I try to do at least 2 a week, and then if we have a good listing, I try to do more. That's what I try to focus on now. So try to do at least 2 a week, and if we got that really good fresh new listing, try to do 3, 4, or 5, like Joseph was saying. But yeah, I have no idea. I beat Gail's record one year. In a month, I did 29 open houses in December in Washington. So if anyone's looking for an excuse, I did 29 in crappy Washington where it rains 80% of the time in December and it's 45 degrees. So just get out there and do it. But I don't know how many I've done, but it took, like, I think these guys said it before, like when I started, like I needed the reps. I was 21 years old, 22 years old. And if you think I look young now, I looked really young then. So yeah, just get those reps in. Like I'd say even if you get the dud of an open house, you can work there. You can put a hotspot in your phone and you can call some people, just send out all your texts and emails. So don't use a dud of an open house as an excuse. Go out there and do it, because what's the best thing that can happen is someone walks in the door and they need to sell or buy. Just do as many as you can. But yeah, I few hundred, I don't know, a lot.
I love that, man. Gentlemen and Jen, this was very fun. I hope it was beneficial for everybody else. Like if I wasn't already doing what I'm doing, I'd probably just go be a sales agent right now and start doing some open houses. This is the difference. What I want you to hear, this is the difference between a freelancer being a realtor and a realtor who wants to get paid like a CEO. These guys want to get paid like a CEO, and this is a lead gen lever. This isn't like, maybe I do it sometimes I don't do it, right? That's called a freelancer. And there's a place for that. It is not our place, right? The place for that is the average agent who sells 7 homes a year, right? Like that's why they sell 7 homes a year, because their lead gen lever isn't like actually being worked, right? It's not being executed. It'd be like having a nutrition plan. You know your macros are supposed to be and you never hit it. Well, obviously you're not going to be fit. Sorry. Right. And which is the story of my life, right? With my nutrition. Don't let that be the story if your bank account follows this, right? And maybe open houses is not your lead gen lever. I wanted you to have the focus of this so that if you wanted it to be, this is it. This is what it looks like to be an A player for open houses. We'll do another lead gen lever next week. And I want you to put one date on your calendar. And that date is the one date that we can get Ben Kinney to do the leverage model for us, and that is going to be Thursday, March 24th. I don't want you to miss it, and it's not at our regular time. That's why I have to mention it to you. It's going to be noon our time, which I know messes up all your schedules. He is the only person that I would allow to mess up our schedule. So it's going to be March 24th at noon. We're not going to have a normal power up that day. So I do like my extra lead gen in the morning, right? Or maybe your team wants you to have whatever your team does, you do what your team does. But at noon, Ben will give us an hour of his time on the leverage model, which is really important. We're talking a lot about leads and listings. And then as your business grows, I want you to have a path forward on what leverage looks like, because nobody joined this team to just join a team. Like if that's what your mindset was, that this is not the team for that. We partnered together so that you can build the kind of business you want to build, as big as you want it, the size you want it, and it's going to be really fun. So I'm looking forward to that. Next week we'll talk about another lead gen levering deep dive. Jen, Jonathan, Ryan, Joseph, man, you guys were awesome. Texas, we'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye, guys.
Thank you.